Have you ever wondered how we actually know if an economy is healthy or if it's about to get sick? Well, today we're jumping right into that. We're talking about macroeconomics, the big picture science of how we keep our entire economic system in good shape.
Okay, to get our heads around this, let's use a really simple but powerful idea. Just imagine the entire economy is a patient. Some days it's full of energy, feeling strong, and other days it's sluggish, maybe even running a fever. So just like a doctor, an economist's first job is to do a checkup. But what exactly are they looking for?
Right. To figure out what's wrong with a patient, you have to check their vital signs. Is their pulse steady? Do they have a fever? Economists do the exact same thing. They use specific economic indicators to get a really clear picture of what's going on under the hood. Now, you could look at hundreds of different data points, and some people do. But honestly, we can get a surprisingly accurate diagnosis by just focusing on three main vital signs. These are what we call the big three, and they tell us almost everything we need to know at a glance. First on the chart is gross domestic product, or GDP. The easiest way to think about this is as the patient's overall energy level. It's a measure of all the stuff, all the goods and services a country produces. If GDP is growing, it means the economy is productive, it's expanding, it's healthy. But here's a crucial detail. Not all GDP is created equal. You have nominal GDP, which can go up just because prices are rising. That doesn't mean we're actually making more stuff. That's why economists focus on real GDP. It's the true health indicator because it strips out that fever of inflation and shows us if the patient is genuinely getting stronger. And speaking of that fever, that brings us to our second vital sign, inflation. You can think of this as the economy's temperature. A little bit of warmth, a little inflation is totally normal, even healthy. But when that temperature spikes, that's a huge warning sign. High inflation is burning through the value of our money, making everything more expensive. And our third and final vital sign is the unemployment rate. This one is all about the economy's core strength. A low unemployment rate tells you the economy is robust. It's strong enough to provide jobs for people. But a high rate, well, that suggests some real weakness. So let's say we've run the tests, we've checked the vitals, and we've diagnosed the problem. Maybe it's a high fever from inflation or weakness from unemployment. Now what? How do we treat it? Well, luckily, economists have a doctor's toolkit with two main medicines they can use. And here's the toolkit. It's pretty straightforward. You've got fiscal policy, which is handled by the government. Think spending projects and taxes. And then you have monetary policy, which is the job of the central bank. Their main tools are things like interest rates. Let's see how they use those in the real world. Okay, case study number 1. Our patient, the economy, has a raging fever. Prices are shooting up way too fast. We've got high inflation, and we need to cool things down before it causes some serious damage. So, the diagnosis is something called demand pull inflation. What does that mean? It basically means everybody is out there trying to buy stuff, but there just aren't enough goods to go around. It's like a giant auction where all this demand keeps pulling prices higher and higher. The key is we have to reduce that demand. So what's the prescription? Well, the central bank steps in with what's called contractionary monetary policy. It sounds complex, but it's super logical. Step 1, they raise interest rates. That makes it more expensive for you to get a car loan or for a business to build a new factory. So what happens? People and businesses borrow less and spend less. Demand cools off, and that inflationary fever starts to break. See the chain reaction? All right, let's flip the script completely. What if our patient isn't running a fever at all? What if it's actually weak, sluggish, just lying there? We're in a recession, growth is flat, and people are losing their jobs. The economy desperately needs a shot of adrenaline. The diagnosis this time is low growth and something called cyclical unemployment. That's a technical term for job losses that happen simply because the economy is in a downturn. The root cause is a total lack of demand. People and businesses are holding on to their cash instead of spending and investing. So the treatment is the exact opposite of what we did before. It's called expansionary monetary policy. The central bank lowers interest rates. Suddenly, borrowing money is cheap. It encourages businesses to expand and people to go out and buy that new car or house. All that new spending and investment boosts demand, and that kickstarts the whole economic engine again. And this really gets to the heart of it all. It's not about finding one single magic cure. Managing an economy is this delicate, continuous balancing act. You're trying to cool it down when it gets too hot and warm it up when it gets too cold. And that right there is probably the most important thing to take away from all this. It's not about solving a problem and then just walking away. It's much more like managing your own long-term health. It takes constant monitoring of those vital signs and making these small, careful adjustments with the policy tools to keep the patient, the economy, stable and hopefully prosperous.
But, this leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. These tools, these remedies we've talked about, they've worked pretty well for decades. But our world is changing, right? We're facing brand new challenges, things like digital currencies, climate change, massive global supply shocks. So will these classic medicines be enough to cure tomorrow's economic illnesses? Or are the economic doctors of the future going to need a whole new medical kit? That's something to think about.